For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Again, it's not iTunes anymore. I keep saying that. After like 3 years of doing the show and saying that, it's stuck. It's stuck with me. That's what it is. How's it going today? Let me just start off by saying Happy Canada Day to our Canadian friends and Happy 4th of July to our American friends. Appreciate your time today. And I'm going to be honest, this is my 5th take doing the introduction for this show, and I am so grateful that this was not live radio, because that would be awkward, and there's no do-overs when you're on live radio. And the funny thing was that just moments ago, and if we've got time today, maybe we do have the clip of my mom call. Just when I was explaining that, oh, this is my 4th take, whatever, all of a sudden I see my parents are calling me, so I answer my mom's call, and I thought, this is already a bad sign. We're 1 minute into the show, and I've fumbled the introduction, and then just when I'm maybe kind of getting my groove, all of a sudden there's a phone call, and I was just like, oh my god. So anyway, happy Canada Day, happy 4th of July. And this is where I feel this week is sort of a freebie week. And what I mean by that is, at least on the radio anyway, you don't have many people that are tuned into the radio, so you're kind of just there hanging out. And that's how I feel about the podcast. You're probably, off doing something. You're at the beach, you're at the park. Maybe you're listening to a podcast as you're sitting there and enjoying the summer sun or something like that. But for the most part, holiday weekends, from what I've found in broadcasting, are fairly low audience numbers. That's with television, that's with radio. I guess we'll see how the podcast thing goes. Maybe I should do like a really cool contest and say, if you're listening to me right now, email me and I'm going to give you cash. I'm not going to. I could say that, but anyway. But no, you know what? Feel free to shoot me an email. I always love hearing from you. The email address is live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. We have no celebrity guests on the show this week, and why we don't is because, again, it's sort of a freebie week where we don't expect listenership to be very high. Hey, I'm just being honest with you. It's no different than why most TV shows don't air new content in the summer, right? Because you just, people aren't tuned in. But there is The Bachelorette playing out this summer, and I've got to tell you, I do enjoy slut-shaming a contestant on that. And I'm going to tell you why. Here's the deal. And there are some people who take my live tweeting the wrong way. But you have to realize that, so this Hannah, who's the Bachelorette this season, she tries to be the Southern belle and talks about, God and marriages between a man and a woman sex is between a man and a woman in marriage, which I've found that to be homophobic, and others agree with me, but apparently it's not, and I'm taking that out of context, whatever. But, if you watched this week's episode on Monday, she's like basically straddling and riding 2 or 3 guys, and then when she's talking to the camera, like kind of doing one of those little like one-on-one interviews with the camera, she then goes and says, I'm going to have to take a deeper dive into the relationship tonight at dinner. It's like, you were just mounting the guy in the frickin' sauna, and now you find it the right time to get to know him. I find it so backwards. And then again, it sort of, it does make me wonder when somebody talks about, sex is for, marriage, whatever. It's like, I'm sorry, if you're that much of a believer in this God character in the Bible and all this other stuff, first of all, you wouldn't be on a show making out with 15 guys in one episode. Like, it's very confusing to me. And so I fully believe that when you go on this show, that you are putting yourself out there to be, ridiculed, mocked, emotionally destroyed. But I think, if anything, I think the show actually does that to you more than what tweets would from strangers in the world. Don't you think? Like, you have to realize that I was supposed to go to a break. I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to launch into this rant until we took a break. But let me just wrap this up, and then we'll officially start the show 5 minutes in. But you have to remember that when she goes crying to the producers that, like, oh my God, I really like this guy. Why is he being like that? I don't know what to do. Like, these are the producers who are setting you up and putting a bug in your ear and, telling you things that you wouldn't have previously been privy to. So you're hearing about the confrontation the guys are having with each other. They're putting, the two guys who have drama, they're putting them together on a 2-on-1 date where basically sparks are going to fly the second that she goes away and these two guys are left alone together. And so, like, I just don't understand why you view these producers as your friend, as though they actually give a shit about you. I can say that, right? Remember, this is a freebie week. Nobody's listening right now. These producers don't give a fuck about your feelings and well-being. They want ratings, they want entertainment, they want the drama, they want numbers. That's no different than when we book a celebrity guest. We don't book a celebrity guest if we don't think people are going to care and listen or tune into the show. Like, you just don't do that, right? And again, no different than when most regular shows don't have new episodes on in the summer because people aren't going to be watching. You're not going to be able to draw them in. So with The Bachelorette, I mean, there's a few issues here. Again, it's one of these things where you feel the producers are looking out for you, which they're not. And then, two, you talk about, genuinely wanting love and getting hurt and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but you're on a television show and you know that these people aren't there genuinely. And just as you aren't either, because you're going to go on to Dancing with the Stars or something, or be an Instagram spokesperson and hawk products. Like, really? So that's why I don't feel bad. Like, going into it what the show is about. And, quite honestly, I don't know. I just... anyway, that's my thoughts. Just tell me what you think of The Bachelorette and all these shows. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. Now that we're well over 6 minutes into the show, we're going to take a break, and the Scribble starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
I do love a break when we have the podcast because I have a nice big glass of red wine in front of me. Thanks for tuning into The Scribble. My name is Jeremy Bradley. I was watching Bill Maher. I'm one of those people who I don't watch the shows when they're actually on. The View, Bill Maher, Wendy Williams. What I do is I end up downloading these segments individually. So I go onto YouTube, and am I allowed to say this? I'm saving the link from YouTube to an actual file on my phone, and then I watch on my phone if I'm going on an airplane or whatever it is. And so I was watching Bill Maher when he did his valedictorian address, or he addressed the graduating class, and he talked about the Hey Buddy generation. Have you seen this video? If you have not, if you're just killing time during your holiday, do a search for it after you listen to this show, of course, and the Hey Buddy monologue or whatever it's called. And I thought it was funny at the time, and then I actually experienced it firsthand by hearing somebody talking to their kid. So what Bill Maher is saying is, he's saying that this is the first generation to graduate that is the Hey Buddy generation, and this is where parents are friends with their kid. My parents never called me buddy, champ, sport, anything like that. They just didn't. My parents were parent. It was an authority figure. They were above me in a sense, right? We weren't peers. We weren't on the same level. And so what Bill is saying on his show is that, this is the new generation where you're babying your kids and you're treating them with white gloves. Is that what the saying is? Anyway, they're not experiencing the real world. They're not experiencing the ups and downs. They have parents that are going into the school and confronting the teacher. My mom's a teacher, so it's a little bit different than when we were growing up. But back in the day, the parents would side with the teacher, right? You were scared shitless. I'm on a roll for swearing today. Must be the red wine. We were scared shitless when there was a parent-teacher conference, and you were like, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. Oh my God, my teacher's going to say this, he's going to say this, or she's going to say this. Mom and dad are going to come home, they're going to give me crap, I'm going to get in trouble. You were genuinely fearful of that. You really were. You were concerned that, okay, they're going to be, I'm talking too much in class, they're going to hear that. Or I got caught cheating on a test, they're going to hear that. Or I got sent to the principal's office because I mouthed off or whatever. That's what you were afraid of when you were a kid. Now, apparently, and like I said, because my mom's a teacher, you have parents that are so defensive and are, when I say attacking, I mean, verbally. Or maybe they would physically attack a teacher, I don't know. But you got these parents who are siding with the kids. My kid does no wrong, and he's right, and da-da-da-da. You're wrong, teacher. You did. And it's like, wow. And so back in the day, the adults had each other's backs. And it'd be no different than, that would be like me, and I do have a moment where I disciplined my nephew. Years ago at Christmas, this was back when my nephews, I have 4 nephews and a niece. One of the nephews had punched my niece in her stomach. Not very hard, but nevertheless, still punched her in the stomach. And I've never disciplined the kids before because I always sort of looked at it as, you know what, the parents are there. I always kind of just observed from the sidelines, and then I would kind of watch it play out and see how the parents are going to jump in if they're going to do anything or say anything. Well, I was the only adult in the room when I saw this happen. And there was just something about that incident where I was kind of like, no way. Here we go. Come with me. You're going into the bedroom there. You're going to sit in the middle of the room. All of the toys are going to be around you. You're not touching the toys. And you sit there. And, he was, crying and whatever. And then he went and sat in the room. And he was probably about, I would say 5 or 6 years old at the time. So old enough to know what he did was wrong. That's my point. And so, my brother saw me, escorting the kid into the bedroom. And, it came to me after. He's like, well, what happened? And I said, well, the kid basically just, punched, he punched her in the stomach. And right then, my brother's like, okay, good. He didn't go in to talk to the nephew and, and all of a sudden, like, that Uncle Jeremy's, being a dick. No, my brother had my back right away and was like, yeah, that's wrong. You don't touch somebody like that, like, sock them in the belly. You don't do that. My brother had my back. I would have had an issue if my brother would have gone in there and said, "Nah, you know what? It's fine. Come on, come out of the room. Go play, whatever." I would have had words with my brother. And again, I don't like kids in the first place, but there was just something about that rubbed me the wrong way. And so what my point is that my brother had my back. He's like, "Nope, that's fine. I'm going to stand behind the discipline." No different than if my mom, so the grandma, right? If my mom goes and says, no more to eat, go have a timeout, whatever. In our family, that's just mom trumps everything then at that point. I don't care if that's not your kid, mom. It's my brother's kid, but grandma, and it's the same thing with the hierarchy. Then my grandma, which would be their great-grandma, right? If she says something, she overrules my mom. And that's just the way things go in our family. And we respected that. And we, never would we have thought that my mom is going to come running to me and then go and overrule her own mother or something like that. Like, that's just, I don't know if that's the Ukrainian or the Polish in our family, or that's just the generation. I really don't know. And so with Bill's rant on his show, basically talking about the Hey Buddy generation, I overheard a guy talking to one of his coworkers. I was in a food court, of all places, but I was at the table beside them, and I'm kind of bored, so I was listening in. And then when you're talking loud enough for others to hear, deal with it, okay? And so I'm sitting here and I'm listening to them talking, and he's talking about his 3-year-old kid and how, in the middle of the night, was getting up and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, so I go in there and I'm like, you know what, buddy? And instantly I thought of Bill Maher. I thought, here you go. Okay, so this is actually true. That is what people say. Hey, buddy. Because you kind of want them to like you then, right? Like, it's more casual. Like, come on, buddy, let's go. No, what happened with get your ass back into bed? Maybe for a 3-year-old, that's strong language. But, no, my parents said, It's 9:30. You're going to bed. I don't care if you're da-da-da-da-da. It doesn't matter if you're da-da-da-da. You're going to bed now. That's how things worked in our family. And so tell me what you think. I would love to know. If you don't have kids, I want to hear from you on this one. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, because I've written so many newspaper columns about parenting and how, and something else that I often see is when you've got, mom and kid, and mom is just glued to the phone. Again, that's part of the reason why I wrote the book, Put Down Your Damn Phone Already, putdownyourdamnphone.com on Amazon and other places that you can get books. But it's just like, do you spend more time with your kid or your phone? And I actually feel bad when I come home and, my dogs are really excited to see me and they're running around. One of them will stare at me when I'm on my phone doing emails or something like that. He has no idea what the phone is. He has no idea what I'm doing. He just knows that I hold this thing. And so I kind of feel that way. I'm like, you know what? Once the dogs are laying down and sleeping, that's when I'm going to use my phone. And again, it's not often that I'm not on it for hours and hours at a time. Again, that's why I wrote the book, Put Down Your Damn Phone Already. But certainly, if I come home and I've only been home for 5 minutes, well, no, they've been, alone for hours. So the least I can do is spend time with them, right? And then, once things settle down and they're like, okay, now we're tired from wrestling and, let's go lay down, that's when I go back to my phone. And even then, the rule in our house is that the phones will generally, I've got 2 phones. One is for work and one is just kind of personal. It depends on I'm an entertainment reporter, so when if a story breaks or something, I kind of do have to be tuned in because I jump on and do entertainment reports for radio stations. But that ringtone or whatever you call it nowadays, there's a different sound when I get a message to that mailbox or to that program. And if I hear that, then I know it's working, I've got to go. But otherwise, if it's just emails to my personal address or whatever, I'm like, I'll just put that on silent and, get around to it. Anyway, but the Hey Buddy generation, watch that from Bill Maher's show on HBO. It's really funny if you can relate to it as a non-parent. And this is one of those things I think parents are going to have, they're going to be pissed off and defensive about it, but he's got a point. So listen to what he's got to say. We're going to take a break. And so parenting ain't what it used to be. Neither is customer service. I'll tell you that story coming up right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
A customer is a customer is a customer. That's the way I view customer service or doing business with a company. Is I'm a paying customer. I should get as much respect or attention as somebody else who's paying more than what I am. And case in point would be when you're flying, right? If I can be an elite member or a gold member, whatever the class is, it makes you feel like less of a person. If you're I'm just have a regular ticket, can I ask a question? Or can I have excuse me, we're actually dealing with these people first. I hate that. I hate it. And it's no different than any store. I'm a paying customer, bottom line, so I'm important. And I experienced this with a shipping company. And we, at the office, we don't ship too much. We're broadcasting, but when we do book orders, sometimes we have to send out books to companies. And we have a company that we use, and there's a business account and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the deal, is that I needed to send something from home, so personal, not work-related, not business, not anything. And it was one of those things where you just go online, you ship online, you don't have to have an account. I'll put in my credit card. I'm going to pay through the nose because, I'm not getting a discounted rate or anything like that. It's a one-off. I get it, whatever, but I just needed to send something. And so I needed it to be there by a Friday. And I had sent it, I had filled out the paperwork on a Tuesday. And it was 2-day shipping to go, and I was like, all right, good. It's going to be there by the end of the day Thursday. Perfect. That gives me a day to spare. Well, they pick it up from my house on the Wednesday afternoon, and then I get a notification, and then it says the expected delivery date is the following Tuesday. And I was like, okay, whoa. I had a 20-minute conversation with a local sales rep, and he's like, oh yeah, 2 days to get it from here to here? Oh yeah, that's no problem. You know, if it gets held up at like customs or whatever, that's still just a minor delay, and it'll still, at least you've got that day, you know, window. You got a buffer. And so I was like, okay, great. Fast forward, not even 24 hours when they pick this thing up, and suddenly it's now expected delivery, not Thursday end of day, the next Tuesday. So I call up my buddy. There we go. That's a great way to use buddy. Hey, buddy. And I'm like almost freaking out on this guy. Now, he's not the guy that I have when we do, you know, business stuff, whatever. Like, this is a different company. This is like, you know, and it was recommended that I do it as a one-off shipment. Their prices will be reasonable, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's not UPS before you start wondering if that's the company I'm bitching about. Anyway, so I ask, I'm grilling him, going, this is not what you told me last night when I talked to you. You had said that, you know, 2 days, it's no problem, whatever. It was just picked up. I just got the notification that you guys picked it up like 20 minutes ago, and already you've added 4 days or 5 days to the delivery? Problem. And so he's like, that doesn't make sense. It's not even back at our warehouse. Like, how would they all of a sudden go and, you know, change the date and whatever? And I said, that's not my problem. You've got to figure that out. So he starts giving me these excuses saying, well, you know, if you open up an account, you know, I can give you discounted rates and blah, blah. I said, I'm not even complaining about the rates. Excuse me here. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you guys have like 2-day delivery service and you've basically made it a week. Like, that's not the same thing. Well, you know, here's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, the people that do bigger volumes, you know, they're going to get priority treatment, and then their shipments, you know, do get fast track and do make that window. And I was like, wait a second here. So are you basically saying that you dupe me? You're going to have me pay for express service, but then because I don't have an account and I'm not a preferred member or whatever, preferred customer, I can just expect a delay like that? I said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to refund me, and I paid $300 and some for this shipping. You're refunding that to me. You're getting it back to me like now so that I can get it on another company that can make it arrive within the promised period by Friday. And you're going to pay for that too. And I just had my laundry list of things. Like, I can't. And basically he was giving me the excuse of, well, you know, people who do bigger volumes, you know, they've got a dedicated account rep, you know, like you're not my customer, but I'm going to help you because I work for the company. Wow, you're a jackass. You are an asshole. Basically, you're going and saying, and it was actually one of the drivers that had delivered something to my house that I said, like, oh, if I need something sent, like, how do I, you know, and the delivery driver is the one who gave me the business card of this guy. I don't know if he was trying to get like a referral or what. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And so it brings me to this whole thing about customer service. Like I said at the top of the segment, a customer is a customer is a customer. Whether I've spent $10,000 with you or $5 with you, you should be grateful for the business. But are we now at this point where it's like, well, the more you spend, the more important you are to me? Maybe that's always been the case, but you're never taught that when you're in customer service, right? I remember working in retail years ago. It didn't matter if you spent $200 with me or $10. I didn't know that when you came in. When I worked at Party City and I was assistant manager, I didn't know if you were going to be coming in and booking your entire wedding decorations and everything and spending $2,000 with me, or you were just coming to buy a $1.50 little trinket, you know, to take back as a sample for your wedding souvenirs. Like, I didn't know, but it didn't matter to me. And yeah, it bothers me. And so the big example that I say is when you're flying, and then even just the prices. So I'm going to pay $200 more and you're going to treat me nicer. I don't like that. I really don't like that. And I do have money, don't get me wrong, but I'm also Winnipeg Cheapskate in the newspaper, right? I wrote a best-selling book about being cheap. So I have money to spend. But I am certainly not going to, that's almost like bribing you to be nice to me, in a sense, isn't it? I feel that that's what that is. If I'm going to pay you an extra $100, $200 for this seat on an airplane, that you're going to be nicer to me and you're going to give me a glass of orange juice when I land, I feel I'm basically paying you to be nice. And I don't appreciate that. Anyway, tell me what your thoughts are. Do you agree with me, or am I way off on this? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. We're back with more right after this.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We're back. I just one further thing to add about that rant I just went on about customer service was that so the sales rep, I basically held him to it. I said, you need to find out where the shipment is, and you need to confirm to me that it is going to get there on Friday. And so he's like, I'm going to do what I can. I can see. Well, sure enough, everything was fine on the paperwork. Everything, it didn't get held up at customs. I did things correctly. There was no reason that it would be delayed. And so then, this was the thing that just rubbed me the wrong way. And he said it jokingly, but there was something serious about it, where he's like, okay, well, I'm kind of expecting all your business now that we got this sorted out. And I thought, wow, you are a big douchebag. Like you saved the day. No, sorry, you actually just sort of kept your word, what you promised me, because you wanted to get the sale in the first place. And you know what I mean? Like, it's almost kind of like, hey, I saved your life. Now you got to make out with me. It really felt dirty. Anyway, speaking of dirty, I hate doing yard work. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. Generally, I pay people. So going back to that customer. Yes, I'm a cheapskate, but if it's something that I just absolutely don't like, I'm not going to do it, and I will. So I pay somebody to clean my house. I pay somebody to do the yard work. Unfortunately, I had to leave town, and I didn't have an opportunity to get to the guy soon enough. And I was just like, oh, well, you know what? There was the holiday weekend coming up, and he's not going to get around to it. He's going to be gone. I got to do it myself. And I have one of those grass cut machine things in the shed. And it's probably, it's 11 years old, I guess. I bought it when I got my house. And so it's used very little because this guy comes with his own machine to cut the grass. And so I was like, oh, God, I got to do this myself. Okay, I hate it. So I put on, the big, yard gloves. like I'm going to be... I don't know, what do you use them for? If you're going to be chopping something, or if you're going to be taking thorn bushes or whatever, I've got the big gloves. I don't need a callus on my hand. And I'm pushing the lawnmower, and that's what it's called. I'm pushing it, and I'm going, and all of a sudden the wheel falls off. And again, I'm not a handy person when it comes to fixing things or doing stuff. And so I was like, oh my God. So the wheel pops off. I go and I figure out there's a screw and a washer and a bolt or something. And so I figured out how to put it back on. And I'm continuing on, and all of a sudden the wheel pops off again. This time, though, I believe it's the washer that went missing. I couldn't find it in the grass. I don't know when it came off. I just know that, okay, the wheel, it's almost like getting a flat tire when you're driving. Uh-oh, something happened. And for the life of me, I can't find this little washer or whatever it was that fell off. And I thought, now I'm just getting frustrated. I'm just going to power through this. And so I'm basically cutting the grass with 3 wheels on this machine. And I think that it was actually cutting better at that point when it was missing a wheel. But again, it was so I got to cut it because that's my responsibility as a homeowner, right? I'm legally obligated to do that, and I really don't give a crap. I'm just whatever gets this done the quickest, that's what I'm going to do. And so I powered through, and that's how I did the yard work on my own. But in all honesty, I don't think it looks any different than when the guy does it himself. But I just can't pull myself to do it. I have no interest in doing it. I'm not going to do it. Same thing with cleaning my house. I'm I work a lot. I don't have a regular schedule. We have hours all over the place. When it comes to my days off, the last thing that I want to be doing is now spending 4 hours cleaning my house, 5 hours. I'm just going to, no. I can pay somebody to do it. So, and I do have to pay some bills right now, so we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. SpeakFreeWithJB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
And look at that, we're already out of time. Happy Canada Day, happy 4th of July. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some real heat